Are you the friend who's always being asked for health advice? Now imagine turning that passion into a fulfilling career with our Become a Nutrition Coach program. Step into a world where your enthusiasm for wellness becomes the heart of your own thriving business. With me as your professor and guide and coach on our user-friendly digital platform, you can learn from anywhere at your very own pace. It's perfect for your busy life. Envision empowering others to live their healthiest lives, all while growing a career you love. You're not just gaining a certification here, you're joining a community of like-minded professionals ready to support and celebrate with you every step of the way. So what are you waiting for? It's time to nourish your future and help change lives, including your own. Head over to nutritiouslife.com/BNC for a free class and a sneak peek of the program. Your journey to becoming a nutrition coach begins now. Welcome to Living a Nutritious Life podcast. I'm Keri Glassman, your host, and in this episode, I'm welcoming back the amazing Jamie Schehr for another round of hot nutrition and wellness topics. Jamie is a licensed naturopathic physician and a registered dietitian. She's the Assistant Director of Academic Integrative Family Medicine at the Institute for Family Health of Mount Sinai and is the owner of Schehr Nutrition, a health and nutrition consulting company, as well as co-founder of xFitLab, a medical fitness consulting company. Jamie joined me in episode 26 for a Hot Topics episode where we covered protein and intermittent fasting and more. So if you haven't listened to that one, definitely do that after you listen to today's episode for more hot topics as well as Jamie's personal career journey. But let's get to today's episode. Today, we explore wellness trends such as hot and cold therapy, weighted vests, and creatine. We even touch on AI a little bit. If you're curious about any of these topics, listen in. You're going to love this one today just as much as you loved episode 26. And as always, please remember to rate, review, and share. Welcome to Living a Nutritious Life. I'm Keri Glassman, a celebrity registered dietitian nutritionist. Join me every Tuesday on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms as I bring in some heavy hitters to share the latest in nutrition and wellness science. We dive deep into food, sleep, stress, relationships, and so much more. Your weekly guide to a happier, healthier, more nutritious life. Hello, Jamie. Welcome back to the Living a Nutritious Life podcast.
Yay. I'm very excited to be here. I was quick to say, let's do this again.
So, you are our first guest to appear more than once on the podcast. So I am so excited to have you back.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I'm so excited. I was thinking about that as I just was about to sit down and record this with you. I was thinking, I think Jamie is our first repeat. And you are, because our first episode did so well and our audience loved it so much, loved hearing from you. I loved chatting with you. So on that note, actually, everyone, just as another reminder, you can go and listen to episode 26 to not only hear our first hot topics in the nutrition and wellness space, but mine and Jamie's, our podcast together, but also just to hear a little bit about Jamie's background. So if you did not hear that, go check out episode 26. So again, you can get Jamie's full background. She gave such a great, a great little overview of your story and your career and where you started and where you are now. So yeah, I really enjoyed hearing about that. Yeah. So everyone go listen to that after you listen to this episode. But today we are going to pick up where we left off in episode 26 and dive into some more hot nutrition and wellness topics. So I'm going to go for it. I'm just
Let's go. Jump right in. Yep.
Weighted vests. What are your thoughts? How do you feel about them? Do you recommend them? Do you wear one yourself? What weight do you recommend? When, where, how? All of the good stuff. What do you think?
I mean, first of all, the fact that this caught such fire in the past 6 months is actually just comical to me, right? It speaks to the trends of one thing picks up and then everybody's talking about it as if weighted vests are a new thing. Meanwhile, weighted vests have been part of exercise for like, I mean, I've had mine for 10 years, maybe. When did, the company start? So, I love that. I love that the trends pick up. And to that point, I'll say, um, I'm almost always in service of saying yes and go for it to something that is a positive health benefit, right? Like if someone's like, well, I started walking with a weighted vest, like fantastic. If they're like, oh, I'm doing push-ups with a weighted vest, great. And I think everything comes into context, right? Like, is it replacing something that could have been better? Or is it too heavy for you or too light and you're not getting the most out of it? But like, if we're just generally speaking, somebody wants to take an investment in their fitness and their health wearing a weighted vest. Yes,
Yeah.
all for it.
Yeah, that's pretty much right on point with what I say. It's like it's going to add something to your health and wellness. It's not, there's really nothing negative unless you're wearing a weight that doesn't fit properly and or is too heavy for you. Other than that, it's only going to be an added value to your routine. So I'm totally with you there. I think actually let's talk about that a little bit, because I do think people get confused with, okay, what pounds do I use? And I know for myself, so I did fall into the trend of this. I got mine I think I actually got it about a year ago. So
Okay.
maybe I was a little bit, a little bit before this, like, woo, everybody in the world had one, but not much before. I was not like you have, and I did not have it 10 years ago, but I did, yeah, maybe a year, maybe even a year and a half ago. But, and I like it just for the sheer fact of, well, if I'm going to go for a walk, I may as well get a little more out of my walk, right? Like it's really
Mhm.
that, like, why not? Why not throw it on? But I have to say, when I wear a 12-pound weighted vest and I go for a walk, I sometimes have to stop the walk earlier. And then I feel
Yeah.
like it's defeating the purpose because it gets too heavy. I feel it in my shoulders. And then I say, well, then yeah, it's kind of defeating that purpose. I'm cutting down on my walk. I don't want that. I want to wear one that I feel like is making my walk a little bit tougher. I'm getting a little more out of that walk.
Mhm.
However, I can still walk for just as long. And so that's where then I also have another one that's a little bit less. I actually got a 6, which is too light. I wanted an 8. They didn't have it in stock, so I got a 6. So
Mm.
I have a 6 and a 12. I probably need an 8 or a 10. So,
Yeah, and
but
I
like,
think you're making an important point right now, which is like we don't have to classify them as good or bad or heavy or light. We
right,
get to use them for all different purposes, right? And usually when you talk to people about exercising, they don't have one dumbbell. They
right.
don't say, I only have a 5 pound dumbbell and I use it for my squats and my bicep curls, right? And a weighted vest might be the same. Now, a lot of them are you get to add weight to them and
Yes,
take it out, which is
yes,
the feature that I like. There are some that are just they come as they are. That for me is not as beneficial because I like the fact that my vest can be 5
right,
pounds or it can be 45 pounds.
yes,
And if you are into it, then I would say to your comment about like, well, maybe it was impacting your walk in a negative way. Yes, if the goal was to get in a long walk, but maybe not if the goal was to increase,
right,
muscle
correct.
stamina and things like that. So, you know, to everyone listening, if you're considering buying a weighted vest, before you jump in, my recommendation is, well, what do you want to use it for? Is it for going for walks after dinner? Or are you going to do push ups and pull ups and squats and like
Right.
a workout? And maybe if you're like, I don't know, both, then you want to go with a vest that has the option to change the weights in and out. Or if you're like, no, I walk every day after dinner and I'd like to make it a little harder. Okay, well, then you can get the standard one. And that's probably great for you.
Right. Yeah, such good points. And that's exactly why I said, like, I use it as just to get a little more out of a nice long walk outside. So I don't want it to weigh me down.
Right.
No pun intended. No pun intended. Dorky nutrition humor there. No, but I don't want it to weigh me
Love
down
it.
like that. I don't want to have to stop earlier. So you're right. Like for me, my purpose there is I'd rather have it be a little bit lighter and just add a little bit of a boost to my walk. But
Yeah.
it's such a good point. And the one you have where you can take the weights in and out, that is it. It's a great way to do that. But let's talk about a little bit of the science behind it. Because people always say, well, what's the purpose? Why am I doing it? And I mean, I tell people it's good for your bone health. It's good for your metabolism and it's good for your cardiovascular health. And it's also good for your posture and your core strength. Anything I missed there, or anything you like to focus on there?
I mean, a weighted vest is a weight,
Right.
right? And so it's weight training. And look at all the benefits of weight training. Everything you just said, every aspect of fitness, every measure of cardiovascular muscle health, like you're working on improving your muscle mass, your muscle stamina, your muscle endurance, your metabolism. And so there's not one thing that comes out of this that's beneficial. There's
Right.
many things depending on, are you running with it? Are you doing pull-ups with it? Are you squatting with it?
Right.
I think, then you'll hear kind of the naysayers, and there's those in every department, which is, we embrace that. We want to be able to have conversations on both sides. And I think they'll say like, well, if you don't, it's bad for your back or it could hurt your shoulders. And it's like, yes, everything can. Dumbbells
Right,
can. If you
exactly.
wear the wrong sneakers, you're going to hurt your knees.
Right.
And so, yes, of course, if you're doing it incorrectly, there's a downside. And, you see all these kids with like these, my daughter's backpack is twice the weight of my weighted vest.
Right.
Literally. And I'm like, and then they're like, well, that's, people hurt themselves with backpacks. I'm like, because they're improperly fit and they're too heavy. This is very different.
Exactly. I've had people ask me about that too. Well, isn't that bad for your back? And I say, well, first of all, it's distributed better than a backpack. So it's distributed properly. And the purpose of that is so that it will reduce risk of hurting your back. Also, again, like you said, your daughter's backpack, that's probably way too heavy for her. And you would never have, which is why I think it's ridiculous that these kids do walk around with these backpacks. But if she was doing that for training and she was working out with someone would never tell her, you would never tell her, wear a backpack this heavy while you're, walking a mile. You would never do that. It isn't the right weight for her, right? So the proper weight fitted proportionately in your body is a much different thing than, carrying something that in the improper way.
When you can, I think of it like as a savings or like more like bang for your buck, right? Like if I know I'm going to spend 2 hours in my house running up and down the stairs, doing laundry, sweeping, cleaning, like sometimes I'll throw my weighted vest on only because I'm like, I can.
Exactly.
And it's great.
Exactly.
And sometimes when I go for a walk, I'll throw it on. And to anyone listening, if you don't have one and you're thinking about getting one, like I said, you want to think really just about what you're going to use it for, and that's going to help you determine. But also, there's vests that are weight loaded front and back, and then there's vests that are only weight loaded in the back, and then there's ones that have shoulder straps and core straps to secure it, and then there's ones that don't. So you do, before you invest, like you do want to sort of get a perspective of what you're going to use it for, because that'll make it feel so much more comfortable.
Yeah. And again, I use it like you do, like you to throw on, doing housework or something. For me, it's like that type of thing, or going out for a walk, just getting a little more out of something I'm doing anyway, but not to replace weight training, not to replace a workout like that. It's just an extra bonus. So anyway, and I think for so many people, again, we're all busy. Like that's the way I like to look at that. I'd say don't do that and not do another workout, but it's something that you can just like throw in. Again, if you're doing it properly, to add an extra little something to your daily or weekly fitness routine.
I think what you and I are both saying, which is probably going to be a thread of the conversation through all the hot topics that we do, is you don't have to be so prescriptive.
Totally. Absolutely.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be that way.
Absolutely. But the last thing I do want to ask you about on this, though, is because you just mentioned some of the weighted vests that have the weights in the front and the back, or just the back. Mine is front and back. And to me, that feels better. But if someone is out there saying, okay, I was thinking about getting a weighted vest, like what is your favorite one? What is the best one? Like, I don't even mean brand. Like, what do you think? And I know you just said it depends on what you're doing. But for that person that wants to add, use it to do housework, just to get a little more out of that activity, use it to go for a walk after dinner, or maybe even on their hour walk every day, but they don't want to make that walk shorter, like myself. What would you suggest there?
For that person, I would say evenly distribute the weight, right? Like if it's a small weight, if it's a 5 pounds or 6 pounds, they make those really cute vests, and the weight are like little round circular designs almost. And they're distributed throughout. So it doesn't feel like you have this thing on your back or on your shoulders. Whereas ones for like true exercise might be loaded a little differently. Like when I do push-ups in my weighted vest, I'll back load it. I won't front load it because I don't want the weight pulling me down. I want the weight on top of me, right? And so if you're somebody who's into fitness and you're going to use it for all these different ways, then you want both options.
Yeah.
But like Keri, like you could just get a really cute, evenly distributed one that kind of looks like a vest and wear it for your walks.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's pretty much, that's exactly what I do. And I have one like that. Right. But I'm not using it the way you do. Although I should maybe start doing some push-ups in it. Maybe that would be
I'm
good
just
for
going to
me.
give you like this like personal little anecdote. I decided one day that I was going to work out in my vest, and I had 10-pound plates in it. And all I did was an uphill walk, some push-ups, some squats. Yeah. I'm telling you, the next day I felt like I got my butt kicked.
Yeah.
Like, and it was not a hard workout. And from that point forward, I was like, okay, there's something here to this.
Yeah. Well, the first time I went for a walk in my weighted vest, it was the 12-pound one, but the first time I went for a walk, I did my whole about hour-ish walk. And the next day, my legs were so sore. Yeah. And I was also starving that night.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, this was a bigger workout than my normal walk. Same thing. I had that experience. Yeah. I said, okay, there's something here. But oh, wait,
and why not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why not get more out of it?
Exactly. Why not get more out of it? Okay. But it's so funny when you just said that, like, why did this become such a trend? I've had my weighted vest for 10 years. Like when you said that, I was thinking to myself, it's so funny. That's what I think about the acupressure mats. You know, those acupressure mats that they sell?
Yes.
So I feel like in the past couple of years, they became, maybe not in the past 6 months or so, they've been as popular, but the past couple of years, they've been so popular. So many people been like, I see them all over Instagram and TikTok. And it's so funny. I was selling them in my office, I think in 2007, 2008. Like I have had one of those for so long. No, but, and they never sort of like caught on. And like, why all of a sudden did they catch on? But I literally used to sell them in my office. And I've loved them for so long. And then it's funny. It was one of those things. So that's what I was thinking of.
Social media, right?
Yeah,
like all of a sudden it's like,
but
this person is an influencer.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we didn't have that way. We didn't have that like way of spreading the word, I think, as easily.
Exactly. And now, right, it's one person wears that weighted vest and it's like, there's an explosion.
Yeah, totally.
All right, let's keep moving on. Okay, next hot topic, creatine. And creatine specifically for women, because I think that many people know about creatine. Many people think that creatine is just for those men that want to bulk up in a major way at the gym. They do not think of it for themselves. And they also don't think of it for anything other than building muscle. So let's talk about creatine as again, specifically for women, all of its benefits, not just muscle building benefits, the good, the bad, all of it.
So this is another sort of circling back, right? You and I 20 years ago learned about creatine in school when no one else was talking about it. And we didn't learn about it from like picking up barbells in the gym. We learned about it from like how to make sure a patient was properly like fed and were they undernourished. And like, you know, it was a way to evaluate the nutrition of the sick person. So I think that speaks volumes to its impact on our health and our wellness.
Yes, that's a good point.
Then, you know, and then now we look at it like, oh, well, creatine is not new for everybody listening. Like there's nothing new about it. It's age old. It's well studied.
It's actually the best studied, isn't it? The best studied supplement out there. Is that true? I feel like
I don't know.
Okay. I thought it had more studies than any other supplement. I might be making that up. I thought that was true.
I mean,
we can check that.
I think you're probably right because of how old it is, right? Because we've been literally studying. I mean, think about how you learned about creatine for protein malnutrition, for burn units, to like all of it. So it probably is just by the way of how long it's been known as a known entity in the nutrition space. I mean, I think protein, creatine, fish oil, they're probably all like in that top 5 as far as like research studies, but yeah, I bet it is. My opinion on creatine, I love that people are talking about it. I think that it's such an important conversation to have because we actually have found something that has shown or proven or been evidence-based in, hey, this could be good for your brain, good for your bones, good for your body, good for your muscles, good, like not just bro science.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like we're not talking about that. And it's very safe. right?
Yeah.
So for me, risk benefit ratio is at the top of every
Yep.
single conversation. And I don't care how amazing something is, if the potential risk and safety of it is going to pull and outweigh that, then it's a different conversation.
And that's so important for this supplement in particular. I think because so many people think of it and they associate it with, oh, that's like a muscle head type of a supplement that must be, not healthy for you. I've had a lot of parents say to me, my 20-something-year-old son is taking creatine. Is that to I say, actually, it's a really
Great.
well-researched,
Yeah.
safe supplement. But they think
And they're
there's
like,
a
is it
negative
gonna
association with it.
right cause kidney failure? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's
Right.
not gonna do any of that. And it is like, so, people ask me about supplements. I'm like, well, let's first take a look at the risk benefit. The
Mm-hmm.
benefit of creatine exponentially outweighs any, if any, potential risk, which there really are not many.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, okay, we can keep it in conversation. And then it's like the possibilities of what you can use it for, from, like I said, anti-aging, longevity, neurology, like thinking about how it affects brain function, muscle.
Yeah.
I always say, if you think about what creatine's doing, it's helping build.
Mm-hmm.
So don't we want to do that in all different aspects of our life? Don't we want to do that for our brain health, for our body, for our muscles, for our organs? Like, so it's a positive, if you will, builder. It's something that's going to help our body, in a sense, not break down, but remain strong and build. It's kind of the way I like to describe it in like the lay terms of like, this is going to help your muscles get stronger, but it's also going to help other connections become
Mm-hmm.
stronger. I think my biggest uphill battle with creatine
Mm-hmm.
is figuring out the dose. Everybody's
Yeah.
confused by that,
Yep.
right? Like, it's not 10 grams a day anymore. Yes, it is if you're trying to put on 50 pounds of muscle and compete,
Yeah.
but it's smaller, right? I have my women doing 2.5 grams a
Mm-hmm.
day
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to feel a little bit bloated or water retention from it, which, by the way, does happen for
Right.
some people.
I want to just take one step back and just talk about that when we talk about the dosing. I think some people, because a lot of people have heard about that loading, and they think that you have to do that loading phase of creatine. And I think that's what concerns some people. I, like you, suggest usually 2.5 to maybe 3.5 or 4 for women with no loading phase at all.
No loading.
Yeah, you don't need to do that loading phase. And so let's just explain a little bit more. If you want to explain that, I can get into that too, just about like that loading versus not loading and what we mean there. Because I think people also hear about that too. They hear, oh, the loading, are you doing the loading of creatine? And then they get, well, I don't know, I'm just taking a scoop of it.
So I never researched where the loading came from. I mean, I know what it does. I know you want to saturate the
Yeah.
cells with the creatine so that you can then connect the muscle faster. But like, I don't know if it was ever studied that loading was that much more effective or efficient in actually increasing muscle
Yeah.
size. I doubt it is.
I think it's just supposed to be faster. It's just that it just happens. You saturate the muscles faster, right? If you do the 20 to 25 grams for, what is it, a day for a week,
I've ever
for
met
5 to 7 days.
anybody.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know that I've ever met anybody who loads at that wouldn't feel bloated or
Right.
water retention.
No, I think they would. I think that though to me, that was always what was considered that loading phase, fast saturation of the muscles. I'm not recommending it, but
I almost never do anything fast.
yeah. Yeah.
Like, why? What's the goal of that for me? So
Right.
I don't do a loading phase. If someone says, well, what about loading? I'll say, I don't think it's necessary.
Right. Well, and especially for the demographic that we're talking about. If we're talking about it in women and we're talking, and as I mentioned, like, I don't think so. I just wanted people to understand what that was and the difference between loading versus just a regular daily dose.
I'm happy to say that I think the language of loading is definitely going away. I think the newer creatine companies are not pushing that the way that older ones did. I also think it's pretty cool how we're seeing creatine now as compared to what it used to be.
Did you know that there is one phase of sleep that most people fail to get enough of? And this one phase of sleep is responsible for most of your body's daily rejuvenation, repair, energy, and controlling hunger, and even the hormones that affect our weight, and so much more. I'm talking about the deep sleep phase. And you probably know by now that sleep deep is a pillar of a nutritious life. So there you have it. It's for good reason. You probably also know that I'm a little sleep obsessed, not with sleeping a lot per se, rather with getting good quality sleep. Because I've been a not so great sleeper most of my life. And when I sleep well, I feel like I can conquer the world. And when I don't, well, not so much. So, why don't most people get enough of this one most important phase of sleep? A big reason is magnesium deficiency. Over 80% of the population is deficient in magnesium, and magnesium increases GABA, a neurotransmitter which encourages relaxation on a cellular level, which is critical for sleep. Magnesium also plays a key role in regulating your body's stress response system. Those with magnesium deficiency usually have higher stress levels, which negatively impact sleep as well. Now, before you go out and buy a magnesium supplement, it's important to understand that most products out there only have 1 to 2 forms of magnesium, when the reality is your body needs all 7 forms of this essential sleep mineral. That's why I recommend Magnesium Breakthrough. I used to just take magnesium at night, but now I take it at night for relaxation and sleep, and in the morning for brain function and stress management. Magnesium Breakthrough contains all 7 forms of magnesium designed to help calm your mind and help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. The deep sleep benefits are really noticeable. I track my sleep. You may see me post this on Instagram, and I can tell you I see and feel the difference. For an exclusive offer, go to buyoptimizers.com/NLKeri and use promo code NLKeri for 10% off any order. I'll also put that in the show notes.
It's pretty cool how we're seeing creatine now as compared to what it used to be. It used to be like a gross powder, and now we have these gummies that taste amazing, and there's capsules, and there's a million different ways to get a small little dose on a regular basis. I don't think that people should load creatine. Again, if you're listening to this and you're like a professional bodybuilder, this
That's
is
different.
not the conversation we're talking, but, and I always start really low. I start 2.5, and then we can go up. But my biggest issue that I find is that if people go up too fast, they think they gained weight.
Yep.
Even though I explained to them a million times over that the body is retaining more water inside the muscle cell, which is what we want. But they get on the scale and they're like, I put on 4 pounds. And I'm like, okay. And then they get off of it because they don't like that.
Right. I 100% agree with you there. I do think for most people, they do see that weight gain right away.
Yeah.
And it is water weight, and it's mostly intracellular water weight, which again, like you said, is water weight that we want. It actually helps our
Makes you
muscles,
look leaner.
makes you look leaner, but it also helps our muscles promote protein synthesis. Like it actually helps our muscles.
Yeah.
Like we need that water in the cells, in our muscle, intracellular water so we need that in our cells. So that's super important. But I think I agree with you that people have that reaction. They get scared, like, wait, I'm supposed to be doing these supplements and doing this weight, strength training because I want to get leaner and look better. And they get scared. They do get scared of it. So, I mean, do you find
it's why I don't recommend it for some of my clients, because I feel like they're not ready yet, because it emotionally sends them down on a roller coaster.
Exactly. I was just going to say that it can be very triggering to people, and it can trigger, up and down, yo-yo dieting. It can even trigger, just that, I'm going to be even more extreme now. And they're going to cut their calories and then cut their protein, and then it works against them. And so it can be, you really, if you are a coach listening to this, you do have to be careful, even though you think it may be beneficial and someone might be interested in it. If you do think that it's going to trigger them, you have to be very cognizant of making that suggestion to them.
Yeah.
Do you think
definitely.
How often do you see this happening with women though? Do you think it happens to everyone? Does it happen to all your clients? Because I do feel like it happens to the majority of the people that I suggest it to, not necessarily that they get triggered by it and stop it, but that they do see that immediate gain. And, because I know because if you read the literature on it, they'll say it does not happen with everyone. I feel like anecdotally, it happens with almost everyone.
I would say that it happens to almost everyone.
Yeah.
I don't have very many people who, and maybe that's because though, Keri, maybe because we have an audience who's very in tune with their weight, right? So in a mass population where people aren't so specific and so in tune with how much they weigh on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, starting creatine, they might then report back like, well, I didn't notice a big increase. But for my person who is monitoring that with a
Mm-hmm.
scrutiny that's arguably good or bad, it's going to show up
Mm-hmm.
because they know exactly, right? Like
Yes.
that 2 pounds on
A
my
good point.
girls is a lot of weight versus 2 pounds on my husband and his cohort is nothing.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. It's a very, very good point. Very good point.
So I think it happens to almost everyone in my world, but my world is it's an echo chamber of people who are, all sort of saying the
Mm-hmm.
same, monitoring their weight, their fitness, their lean muscle mass, etc. Or if women are in perimenopause or menopause and we're talking about creatine, very often they're already in tune with not feeling
Mm-hmm.
their body the way that they're used to. So
Mm-hmm.
any increase in that is on top of insult to injury, right? So like we have to have these conversations where it's like, this is going to happen. You're going to be heavier, but what does it really mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, such good points. And I just want to also mention again, like there are many different benefits to creatine. So if you're taking it, it's not just to build that lean muscle mass. That is a big benefit to it, and generally why what it's sort of famous for. But especially, like you just mentioned, that perimenopausal population, it's so important for this group of people because I say the brain health benefits, and you touched on these before, but everything from improved memory to improved focus to reduced cognitive decline to reduced depression and a better mood. I mean, there's so many brain health benefits to it, and all of those things can can be a problem during that perimenopause phase. So sometimes I think
Yes.
like, okay, so you might see the number go up, but it's because you've got more water in your muscle cells. That's a good thing. And you might want to stick with it because your brain health could be improving and you just haven't seen those benefits yet. But
Right.
you could get there really soon. And so anyway, there's just, you have to look at the bigger picture, at the bigger picture
Totally.
benefits. And so I think, for the right person, especially for someone, and I've talked to you about this. When I think of, my health and wellness right now, I'm always thinking about, like, you have to kind of choose your lane. I always say that, you can't focus on every single thing. You have to choose, like, what am I
Mm-mm.
most focused on? And I think, again, one of the things I'm most focused on is brain health. So when I think of, what do I want to take as far as supplements go? What do I want to do as far as lifestyle goes to help improve brain health and, stay sharp and focused and reduce brain fog and all of those things as I age? Creatine is right there at the top of the list.
Yeah. And to everyone listening, you will go through different points in life where you have to change lanes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when you change lanes, you then may also have to change your supplements.
Yep.
Right. So if you were on, all of these supplements for whatever situation, you change the lane, you may then be switching over and not necessarily taking, your same supplement from before, but now we're adding in creatine and taking something else out. Too often I'll get people who are on 20 different things because they do exactly what we're talking about, which is adding these things for the
Yes.
benefit, but then forgetting to go back and be like, wait a second, hold on. What's not serving me here anymore?
Yeah, it's such a good point. I have people that will come in too and say, "Oh, I've been taking this supplement for 20 years." And I was like, "You never thought to, like, say, well, I'm in a different stage of life, or
Yeah.
maybe my body's changed." Like there sometimes you need to change this. I think people should take a look at their supplement regimen every 6 months. Take a look at it.
Totally.
Every 6
Yep.
months or so, take a really good look at what you're doing. Should I still be taking this? Why did I start taking this? Did I start taking this just because I had been sick for, and then I added it,
Literally.
but I kept taking it and buying it. Maybe I don't need that regularly, or maybe my diet's changed and I'm actually don't need to fill a gap there with the supplement. I'm doing great with my diet with that, but I'm in now another stage here and I need to add this. So such a good point that you brought that up. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you mentioned, though, the last thing about creatine, you mentioned you start with 2.5 grams. Do you, and I think you mentioned that you continue to go up, but how high do you go? And then the second part of that question is, you mentioned that now there are other ways. I use powder. I, for the most part, recommend powder, but I do know that there are gummies. What is your favorite form?
I mean, so My favorite form is going to be the one that the person can be the most consistent with.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if someone's like, I can't do the powder, and then they're like, but I love the gummy, and they can take the gummy every day, then I'm like, okay, well, the benefit of taking it is going to sure outweigh the benefit of not, the risk of not taking it or forgetting it. So,
Right.
and then of course there's like monohydrate and isolates and all of those. I mean, I always say defer to a company that's reputable, clean, doesn't have other things in it. You don't need your creatine with your weight gainer, with your protein, with your, just get creatine by itself. And whether you want to get a powder and put it in your smoothie, or whether you want to chew it in a gummy or take it in a capsule, it's what can you be consistent with? And when you look at your creatine, where, what are you looking at? What's in there with it? What's it stacked with? It should be stacked with nothing.
I'm so glad you brought that point up about it being the only ingredient in the supplement. Really glad you brought that up. And we're always on the same page with that as far as like the being consistent and the, it's like what time, it's like when people say, well, what time's the best time of day to exercise? I'm always like, when you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like when you're going to do, I mean, there is an ideal time, but it doesn't matter if you're not going to do it at that time. So like, it's the same sort of thing. We're both very practical like that, I think.
Because practical allows you to be consistent, and consistent wins the game every single race, from health to wellness to, and so the practicality of it is, hey, I can practically do this. I can be consistent. I'm going to be okay. I'll say to every single person I work with, like, I will optimize their entire wellness routine around what is going to most seamlessly integrate into their life, because 12 months later, they're still in the race.
Absolutely.
They're still in the race.
100%. I love that. I love that.
I think I see a lot of creatine right now that's like, there's so much BS out there. It'll be like creatine, and then it'll say like with like a lacuna bean to increase the hydration and absorption. And I'm like, that is not that is just marketing. So just get creatine.
And that, by the way, probably has not been studied. They just add two things. They're taking the study. They're taking, okay, this does this and this does this, but these two things together don't necessarily do anything better. We have to remember that when you see things like that stacked in supplements. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So quality matters.
Absolutely. Okay. Love it. Next hot topic, hot and cold therapy. Sauna.
Oh my goodness.
Ice.
Listen, it's all the rage right now. The amount of like sauna places and popping up is, I was just at Remedy last night. I was trying out their new robot massage, which is pretty cool experience.
Oh, wow. Wait, that's so cool. Wait, tell us about that for a second. Let's go on a tangent for a second. I want to hear about the robot massage. I didn't even hear about that yet.
Robot.
Wow.
It's an AI robot, and you lay on a massage bed, and there's a screen in front of you, and then a robot arms, and it's literally a massage. It feels a little bit more like a massage chair than it does like a human, right? You don't get like sort of the aspect of a human being able to get like under the scapula, like, but it is very much a massage. It's extremely responsive to pressure, to temperature, to all the different things. It's AI in its best form in this capacity. It was a cool experience. I liked it. I wouldn't replace my person masseuse with it, but as an option, especially if it was like a more affordable option and easier to get into, like it's in the beginning stages of what it will become, but it was cool. It was a toy.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's really, really interesting. And that's, that kind of makes sense. I could see that as far as it being similar to one of those massage chairs, which are always nice to sit in, but they certainly don't replace human hands.
Exactly. And you're like, oh, that feels good, but it's not the same as,
By the way, that kind of that kind of makes me feel better though, by the way, that like they weren't able to replace human hands. I don't know. It just makes me feel better about, okay, humans are still needed. Humans are still humans. That makes me feel a little better, actually.
I love AI. I love robots. I love tech and science, but here's my take home on all of it. The element of a human that can never be replicated by a robot is always going to be in feelings.
Yeah.
And how you feel when somebody touches you is a feeling.
Yep, absolutely.
There's all those like AI pod docs. There was that company, they like raised like 600 million or something, where you get to like go into a pod and it's AI and it scans you and it tells you what's wrong with you if you have, psoriasis or eczema. And it came out like, this is going to replace primary care. And then it failed. And it failed because the element the relationship, right? Being able to speak to someone. So I'm here for the robots, but we're not getting replaced anytime soon.
I'm here for tech. I'm here for robots, but I'm really here for humans. I really like humans. I really like humans a lot. Okay, let's go. Hot cold therapy. So you were at Remedy Place last night. Is how we got onto robots.
Amazing. I have this really cool, opportunity, as do you in New York, to have friends and be connected into an industry that has all these things. So we get to try out some, just did Other Shift just opened and I tried that one, which is hot therapy and then cold therapy. And it's just another form of people looking for ways to practice wellness.
Yeah.
So here's my thought on it. If someone's like, well, this ice bath thing is so stupid, I'm like, okay, then don't do it.
Exactly. Don't do it.
But if somebody else wakes up every morning and they jump in an ice bath and for the rest of the day, they're more focused or they feel motivated or it helps connect them to their goals, why do you care?
Right.
Right. And so it's wellness and the risk benefit ratio.
I was just going to say, it goes back to the risk benefit thing that we started this conversation with.
Yeah. It's like the benefit that somebody might feel from entering a routine of sauna, of hydrotherapy, temperature therapy, can be life-changing for some people. And for others, like I hate a cold plunge.
Me too.
I don't do a cold plunge. I won't get in the cold plunge. Everyone's like, I'll get you in it. I'll keep you in there. I'm like, it's not that I can't.
Yeah, you're like, I don't need to push myself to do that one. I do a lot of other things. I don't need that form of wellness in my life. That's what I say about it.
Not for me.
Yeah, but I love a sauna.
All day. I love a sauna. I love it. I will sit in the sauna.
Love a sauna.
And I mean, if we're going to talk about evidence and research, there's a lot more evidence.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
I was going to say there's a lot more evidence on hot than there is on cold in the application of brain health and longevity. Of course, the application of cold in acute injury, but that's not what we're talking about. Right? If you pull a hamstring, like go jump in a cold, like obviously that's different. You see that in sports all the time. But you and I are talking about wellness. Mm-hmm. We're talking about feeling our best, preventing, age-related diseases and all of those things. Like the research is around hot.
Right.
However, you're not going to eat like crap or not exercise and get in a sauna and expect all of the wellness benefits of it. It is like a spoke in the wheel. It is another thing that we add to fully round out. So when people are like, well, is sauna going to help me lose weight? I'm like, if you're eating like crap and not exercising, no. But if it's a part of a routine, sure, maybe. Or is it going to help me reduce all my toxins? Well, if you're pumping yourself full of vodkas every night, then getting in the sauna every morning, like, I don't know that it's, helping with your brain health. And I know that's not sexy and fancy and fun. Right. And I don't like, I can't lie.
Right.
And be like, yes, you get out of it what you put into it.
Right. And if you don't have the foundation in place, none of these things are going to do much, if anything at all. So like exactly what you said about if you're drinking way too much alcohol and eating poorly and getting into a sauna in the morning, sure, it might make you feel a little bit better right at that moment, but it's not really doing much for you. If you're eating really well and you're not drinking that alcohol and you're hydrating and you're doing this, in addition to the rest of, your wellness routine, you're layering on something else that has really great benefits. Sweating in general is healthy for you. So sweating is just good. So it's just another time to sweat. So that's great. But again, if you're not doing the basics of getting good quality sleep, of eating well, of moving regularly, of managing your stress, if you're not doing those things, all of these other things are going to do, again, not much, if anything. You've got to really, they have to be layered onto the basics. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, and I agree. And I also say it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of the call around the weighted vest, right? Like if someone's like, well, I don't have time to do it all, so I'm just going to do a sauna instead of a workout. Okay, well, that's not a positive switch.
Right, exactly.
I would rather you switch and sweat and work out and move your body.
Right.
If you have to decide between the two.
Such
right. And when people get caught up like, well, I'm all these things, how am I going to fit time for, the cold and the hot and the vest and the workout? And I'm like, they're not all for you. And we shouldn't replace something that is a foundation,
exactly.
AKA healthy food, exercise, sleep. Like none of your foundational habits should ever be replaced with an accessory.
Yep.
A sauna is an accessory.
Yep.
A weighted vest is an accessory. These things are not foundations. So
Yeah.
it's not for you if it has to only fit as a substitution for something that's in your foundation. And if we can remember that, the whole wellness industry is going to feel a lot less overwhelming and confusing, right? Because it's a checklist. Did I first do sleep, food, exercise? Oh, okay. What can I put in there now, right? If you have to either go to a sauna place or go to the gym because they don't have both, I'm going to say go to the gym.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Again, we are on the same page with all of that. But or not, but I'll say, and let's though talk a little bit about the science of sauna though, because I do think that, like you said, there's more science there than there is with cold therapy. Although I do have to say cold too for people that get sore. I know that's really helpful for people for sore. You said after injury, also helpful. But I mean, and there's again, like you said, there are some benefits. But since they're more on the hot side of things, let's talk about the benefits and the research of hot, aside from just the sweating. We know we sweat. We know it's good to sweat. What else do you think on that side?
I think cardiovascular compliance, right? Mm-hmm. Your body's ability to get the heart rate and the body temperature up, and then to regulate at that high space, mm-hmm. and then to bring it down, right? Heat tolerance is part of your metabolism. Mm-hmm. So it's increasing metabolic rate. So beyond muscle and weight and all that, like you want to think about the internal systems that are getting a opportunity to work and improve by way of having to manage increase in body temperature and decrease in body temperature and the ability of the body to be able to tolerate that. Somebody who sits in a sauna knows that they become more heat tolerant over time. And that's essentially the same as your muscle becoming stronger over time when you're using weights and weightlifting. Mm-hmm. So, there's that aspect of it. The whole idea of like toxins and detoxifying, and that's where it would be beneficial in your brain health. Like all of that is very true. One of the greatest challenges, I think, is that the research on saunas is on continuous sauna therapy.
Right.
So to somebody listening, if you can only get in the sauna once a month,
right.
Well, get in the sauna once a month, but it's really just more for your mental health and for your calming element. It's not actually going to do any of the things that we're talking about, right? You're not increasing your metabolism. You're not increasing your cardiovascular capacity, your detoxification systems by sitting in a sauna once a month.
Yeah, or if you go to a spa for a weekend, it's nice. It feels good to jump in that sauna while you're there. But if it's not going to be part of your wellness routine, then like you just said, it's not really doing that much, which is why I say to people, like, I'm not saying you have to go and buy a sauna, but if you want to incorporate this in, it's really much more beneficial to actually buy a sauna and incorporate it into your weekly routine multiple times a week than even bothering to go, once in a blue moon. It's because it's just not really, right. I mean, again, aside for the mental health benefits of it or for a specific reason, but to get those benefits, like you mentioned, you do have to do it regularly, just like anything else, just like exercise. You're not going to reap any benefits from going for, a hike once while you're away and then not exercising the rest of the month, right? And one other benefit, though, that I wanted to just mention that I do think of when I think of sauna is inflammation, reducing inflammation. Mm-hmm.
So the reducing inflammation would be a manifestation or a reaction of increased circulation mm-hmm. and detoxification, right? So it's sweating and it's detoxing and it's increasing the circulation. And, the less we move, the more inflamed we become. Blood is very healing as we circulate blood and as we detox things out that shouldn't be there. So it does absolutely reduce inflammation, and inflammation is the root of disease. So I think that the heat therapy, I think we should and could use heat therapy in medicine a lot more, but it's a lot easier to write a prescription mm-hmm. than it is to prescribe sauna, right? Now, I'm not saying that people who have high blood pressure should all go sit in a sauna, but interestingly, if you look at a sauna, the first thing it says is, don't get in here if you have high blood pressure, mm-hmm. right? But in a world where that was a part of their medicine and they were properly treated and followed with doctors around temperature control and blood pressure, there's plenty of research that says that it could help improve that. Right. That doesn't mean somebody with high blood pressure goes and gets in 180 degrees and that's going to fix it. That's not what that means. Right. But I think we have gotten into a space in medicine where we've found the easiest way. We can write a script for something,
Right.
versus in prescribing lifestyle. And I think you and I
Right.
are in the business of prescribing lifestyle.
Yes.
And prescribing lifestyle to me is what I talked about before, where like whenever I write something to somebody, I want to know that they're still in the game 12 months later. I
Yes,
want the person I
absolutely.
see tomorrow in session to be somebody who I prescribed sauna for them in February and they're still hitting that sauna, right? Because then I know what's happening is it's investment, it's equity, it's building your wealth, but in your wellness space.
So if someone doesn't have access to a sauna, they don't want to go and buy a sauna, what do you recommend for heat therapy?
I don't know if there is another way to do it without a sauna.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, do you think a hot bath does anything? Do you think a heating pad does anything? Do you think hot yoga does it? Do you reap some of those same benefits? I mean, yoga obviously.
Well, hot yoga
benefits.
is a sauna,
Yeah.
right? So hot yoga is a
Yeah.
sauna. So that would be yes if you were doing hot yoga regularly. I think a lot of gyms nowadays are putting saunas in, which is a cool thing because we're trying to get to the gym more regularly. So that might open up a venue for people to do this more regularly. You're not going to raise your body temperature in the same way in a tub or in a shower or on a heating pad. You're just not, right? Like, I mean, the research shows you can't. Even hot tubs don't have the same essence of heat therapy as a sauna because the sweating is different.
Right.
And also you stay in there. So, I don't know, if you don't have access to a sauna at all regularly, then don't put sauna on your list.
Right. No, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that because that's kind of what I say. If you're not going to be able to do it regularly, don't do it. Like it doesn't have to be something you're going to do, and you can be perfectly healthy or as healthy as you are going to be without incorporating that wellness tool.
But the person who can't get the sauna might be able to get the weighted vest.
Right, exactly.
And might be able to get a wool sweater and put the wool sweater over the weighted vest and go out for a walk or a sweat sauna, like the clothing that makes you sweat. And you might be able to wear a weighted vest and sweat and do that every day. And you're going to get a lot out of that because you're doing it all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that because I think, sometimes people will even say that, well, what do I do if I don't have a sauna? I can't get to a sauna. It's like, well, then that's just not part of your routine. And that's okay. You can't do every single one of these things. And you don't have to. And there's different tools available to us. And like we both said already today, we talked about you have to have, what I call the pillars in place first. You have to have those foundational nutrition and wellness pieces in place first. And then you can layer on some of these other tools. And again, bringing it back to what you said originally, if you weigh the risk benefit, right? And make the choices that work for you best, that you can be consistent with.
Right. And, that change lanes when you need to, right? Yep. So I think when we did our first podcast, I think we talked about this. I don't remember. I was big on red light therapy at the time. And I was waking up every morning and I was putting my red light mask on 10 minutes before I got out of bed. And I was really loving the effects that it had on my skin. And it was a great place. And I did it for like 6 months or maybe more. And I felt fantastic. And then my schedule changed for my mornings, my kids' work. And like, I don't have the same availability of time in the morning that I did in my previous schedule. So now I look at my red light mask and I'm like, well, I love that thing, but it's not really going to help me to put it on once a week for 10 minutes.
Right.
I know it's there. I know that season will come back in the summer when I can put it on for 10 minutes every morning. So instead of just feeling like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, I'm changing lanes.
Yep. So smart.
And this season's lane is going to be something else. I'll go back to that red light therapy every day, 5 days a week, 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time. I'll reap the benefits again. But if I keep it in my brain as like, oh, I really want to get to that, I wish I could do that, it's only going to make me feel bad.
It's only going to cause you stress, which is working against you.
Not there. So you know what? You said it earlier. Like there's different, lane changes. Like, okay, so it's going to go to the side for now. But another accessory can come in, a weighted vest, a sauna. And I want people to think that way. We receive like every day, we're inundated with like, I'm sitting here with you. I'm like, well, should I be standing on one of those electric EMF mats and preventing all the, I'm like, I can't do it all. Right. And we have
but we don't have to do it all. And we don't have to do it all. I think that's what we're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pick the things that you can be the most consistent with.
I love it. Jamie. All right. So good chatting with you. We're going to have to do another one of these and get to a few more hot topics because there's so many good topics to discuss with you. I love chatting with you. And really where this came from, everyone who's listening, Jamie and I were just chatting and we were like, we should really chat about this for people to listen in on, because we just love chatting with each other about these different topics. And it's just
that everybody asks about.
Exactly. So much fun.
If you think you'll wear your vest, go get it. And if you think you'll be consistent with creatine, take it. And if you have access to a sauna, go for it.
Exactly. I love it. On that note, I'm going to go make a smoothie, go while I'm wearing my vest, and book a sauna for the weekend. No.
Amazing. Keri, it is such an honor to be on your show. Thank you for having me back. And I hope that everybody listens in and learns a little.
And check the show notes for more on Jamie and where to find her, and she will definitely be back. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.